thriving in the Abaco Islands.
5 young boys create a rescue trampoline.
The first to run a marathon in under 2 hours.
We have seen what we thought was unseeable.
A relay of dogs will lead blind runner Tom Panic across the finish line.
Nicolas Mahut lost in the French Open, but then his 7-year-old son ran onto the cart to give his dad a big hug.
Her and her sister have been heroes for many little girls out there.
I will pick my amazing mom. She's my hero.
I love you.
Exactly what I was thinking.
When you are free to be you, it is the best feeling in the world.
He's the Sully Sullenberger of pizza.
My family is making a grant to eliminate their student loans.
We know deep down what's right and what's needed.
I'm going to fight this.
Who says I can't? Nobody! Here it comes. Never been done in competition. The category is love, y'all. Love!
Use your heart, your courage and vision to fix, to heal, to empathize, to connect. Because living life as something bigger than yourself is a hero's journey.
Hello, everybody watching. How are y'all doing? I'm so excited that you're here watching or listening to this show. This is the Power Up Hero Show, and I am your host, Lisa Wisner, and I am always so excited to serve you this episode where we bring you heroes from all over the world, literally, and we share heroic stories of how individuals are literally living powered up lives. Because let's face it, living your best life, juggling a busy workload can be close to impossible. Sometimes it can feel like you're pulling superpowers from who knows where. And I can tell you one of my superpowers is community and having people who you can consider your soulmates. And so I want to bring to the show my co-host, Megan Isasi. Welcome, Megan!
Hey, Lisa. I'm so excited to be on the show today with you. It's the one thing that I look forward to every weekend.
Yes. Oh, let me tell you, Megan, as soon as I said soulmate, I was like, oh, I should have had like the Lizzo song on, just kind of like, oh, Megan. And I know Lizzo's talking about, be your own soulmate, but you're my soulmate, Megan. I feel like you are mine. So I don't know whether you feel like that, but I feel like that.
I do. I think there's certain people that just come into your life, and when you meet them, everything is just so easy. Everything fits like a glove. You know what I mean? Like, interacting is easy, talking, communicating is easy, working with each other is easy. It's just easy.
Megan, we're getting real here. It's like,
I know.
Like the beginning of the show, I'm about to like tear up here because I feel exactly the same way. I don't even know what happened. And anyway, I'm excited to be here with you, Megan. And so the world loves me for bringing me, Megan, into my life. So I'm glad that your mom and dad got together and made Megan because I needed Megan in my life. So I'm so glad you're here.
Same.
Yes, Megan. Okay, so I was talking about people pulling unimaginable superpowers from who knows where, right? And I'm sure you know how that feels to be able to you got to get it done, right? Sometimes you just have to pull it from somewhere.
Yep, it's in that 11th hour where all of a sudden you're like, pedal to the metal.
Ooh,
you know all about that.
I you did that. Yeah. You know what? Okay, so now that I did that, that fist, everybody uses that fist to represent justice now, right? So I want to bring in the conversation about TEDx. So this is like a call to action to everybody watching. I'm going to drop the link right here so you can see what I'm talking about. So Megan, did you know we're having the TEDx event coming?
Yeah, I heard about it. I saw the amazing ads and I read Jedi and I was like, ooh, Jedi. I've recently been into Star Wars lately.
Yeah.
And then, this whole
you have a lightsaber?
Yes, you need like a justice, equity, diversity, inclusion lightsaber.
A TEDx one, right? Somebody, Andrea was on a TEDx meeting this morning and she was doing this and she's like, we should have the Jedi thing. But what we mean by Jedi is justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Building a community where everybody feels they belong. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah, so I was just thinking through this. And so if any of you watching right now are interested in perhaps participating in our TEDx event as a speaker, as an organizer, as a sponsor, yes, we need money to pull these things together. Please visit our website, TEDx Cole Park. The deadline to apply to speak is actually coming up. It is this Monday at midnight. So you have the whole of Monday to work on it, or you have the whole of tomorrow to work on it, or if you are super amazing, then you have the rest of today to work on it. So Megan, I'm going to ask you right now, Megan, would you apply to speak? Because I think you have a talent.
I knew you were going to do this.
I know.
Anybody who has a voice in this world, anybody who considers themselves a hero in empathy, in being different, in supporting amazing, awesome people, being equalizers of humans, right? Good.
Equalizers of humans. Oh my gosh, that is the TED Talk, Megan. That's your title. Megan Isasi's TED Talks title is Equalizer of Humans. I don't know. Anyway, Megan, consider it. So just like I invited Megan, I'm inviting you right now, watching, listening. Apply to speak at our TEDx event. We would love to have you. And when you submit your application, please know you have about 2 months to get it right. So what you are applying, it may not end up being what you actually submit. So if you just have an idea kind of just churning in your mind, submit it, because we'll have 2 months to work with you. We have speech coaches. I'm inviting Megan to speak, but Megan is actually one of our speech coaches for TEDx. So we work with you to refine your talk so that it's perfect for the TEDx stage. But Megan, when you talked about people being bold and stepping out and having a voice, I got my books, Megan.
You gotta. You need to have them signed.
Yeah, I know. I need them autographed. I got my books from Evelyn. So Evelyn James is our first TEDx Kid author. And so we've published her books, and they are available for purchase. And I got mine in the mail. So I'm super excited that we've published our first kid author. So super, super excited. So for those of you who would like to support our TEDx kids, Soraida, if you're watching right now, woohoo! We're so excited. And we've ordered like almost more than 200 books already. So I'm just saying, it's doing pretty good there. And so I'm just super excited because this is really the future of our world. The future, children are our most valuable asset. And so for me to power them up and show them how the power they have now as when they're young is really the superpower. Because I feel when we get older, sometimes the world kind of tells us, you got to fit in here, you got to do this, you got to do that. But when you're a kid, you're like, yeah, do whatever I want. And we want to keep that going, right? So I'm super excited about
Linda.
Yeah.
Zoraida says that she loves it so much and she is ready to sign. And she says it with a big smile on her face.
Oh, I love it. I didn't even know she was watching Zoraida. Gosh, I'm so excited about these books. You have no idea. So we're going to make sure they're like literally, I'm thinking whenever it hits, if they haven't hit Amazon yet, when they hit Amazon, then it'll be hopefully global, and we'll have those books sold globally. So Soraida, you're doing a good job. And actually, here's another pitch, Soraida. Maybe Evelyn wants to give a talk, right? We could have our TEDx youth conversation here, so we could have some conversations from our youth about what they think justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion means in our community. So I'm super, super excited about that. So let's move on now, Megan, to the reason why we're all here. So our world needs heroes today more than ever before. And this show was really created to be an opportunity for us to tell stories about people who are being power-up heroes in our community. So we're hoping to share with you today a story about an individual who's on a mission. Not only the mission they're on, but also to hopefully give you a glimpse into the life that they've been able to build as a power-up hero for our community. Being a power-up hero is about living your best life. It's about being the agent of change. That is what a hero is. A hero steps into the challenges, not only for themselves, but for their family, but for their community most, right? And so throughout this entire show, I hope as you're watching, as you're listening, that you really see yourself. I always say sometimes it's important to see things that maybe are a mirror for you and you don't realize you have that superpower or you have that heroic quest in you. Maybe this journey will be that spark that will make you realize that you are a hero that we've been waiting for, and you need to show up and be that hero for our community. So Megan, I'm so excited to shine a spotlight on our outstanding individual here in our community of Corpus Christi. We have an amazing individual, and his name is Rudy Garcia. Rudy Garcia is a native of Corpus Christi, Texas, and he's actually one half of the founding duo of Revolve One Podcast. So I'm going to tell you more about Rudy. So Rudy decided to co-create the podcast to engender a platform where diverse voices and generally uncommon subjects could easily come together. As a graduate with a degree in speech communications from Texas A&M University, Kingsville, go Javelinas. I did not graduate from A&M Kingsville, but I know that they're the Javelinas. Go Javelinas. He cultivates clarity through being such an avid communicator. As a self-described political nerd, news junkie, and a student of leadership, he seeks to build bridges that bring communities of diverse thought, creed, in connection with each other. And through each and every single one of his podcasts, he enthusiastically wants to foster community. And here in Corpus Christi, he currently resides with his wife, his 5-year-old daughter, Sophia, who, by the way, shares a name with my niece, Sophia, who's simply amazing. So when I hear the name Sophia, I just light up because I feel like she's my daughter. When he isn't recording, he enjoys working out and reading on topics such as meditation, leadership, and empathy. Megan, join me in welcoming our Power Up hero of community, Rudy Garcia.
Hey. Thank you. Very honored to be here. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Megan.
Rudy, I'm so happy you're here. Oh my gosh.
I'm excited to be here. I never considered myself a hero, but this setup and that video beforehand, I'm honored to be here.
Well, can I just say something? Everybody watching right now, we have Soraya there going, "Yay, Rudy Garcia! Cannot wait to hear what you have to say, amigo." One of the things for me personally is, I don't think a hero knows when they're being a hero. I think when you're on your heroic quest, I feel like it's kind of like you have blinders on and you're just doing your work. So it's our job as community members to be able to edify people and show them a spotlight and say, look what you're doing. You're doing something great in our community. So Rudy, today, I want to congratulate you. I want to tell you how much we appreciate you. I want to tell you how much this community absolutely loves everything you're doing with the Revolve One podcast. You are just really shedding a spotlight on marginalized communities. You're bringing topics that are uncomfortable into comfortable conversations in our community. And I think that is truly, what makes our world go round. People stepping out of the comfort zone and bringing up things that make people uncomfortable. I think that's what you're doing with your shows and your work that you do. And so congratulations on being our Power Up hero of community.
Thank you. I'm honored. I'm extremely humbled.
Yeah. So let's get this show on the road. Megan, have you ever met Rudy before?
So Lisa knows a lot about Rudy, and there are probably a few of you out there who are kind of like me. You've probably scrolled through Facebook and seen the Revolve One stuff. You probably saw his TEDx talk, but you don't really know that much about Rudy. So I am excited for this show because I know we're going to dive deeper into who Rudy Garcia is, what his mission in this community is. And so I'm really excited because when I heard your mindfulness talk at TEDx, a lot of it stuck. And while I was sitting there in the audience, I was, mindfully listening to you and mindfully feeling everything I was feeling. And then afterwards, I felt really good for the rest of the day. So if your talk is anything else like the work that you're doing, I am excited for this show.
So grateful for those words. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm super excited. So let's get started with finding out who our Power Up Hero of community is. So, Rudy, your first question from us is just tell us who you are. Tell us, why did you get started in this world of doing this thing called Revolve One Podcast? When did we get started with that? Where did that all come from?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, I want to say again, I'm so grateful and thankful to be here on the show with you guys. And so, yeah, I'm an executive producer and one half of the founding duo of Revolve One Podcast. And the way that it all began, and I have to mention my other half in the podcast, is my sister, Crystal. And so her and I, we are siblings. We're 8 years apart. And we have, believe it, even though there's a disparity there, we have a really good relationship. It didn't start out that way, but we definitely have grown and matured over the years. And it really came about in 2015, 2016, where it seemed like everybody in the world wanted to be heard, but nobody wanted to listen. And so Crystal and I kept talking back and forth. Of course, if you recall, election 2016 was really on top of everybody's headlines, but nobody was willing to pause and take a moment to listen. And Crystal and I kept going back and forth with conversations about if only we could just sit down and listen potentially to the other side, listen to the person on the other side of the comment screen or computer screen, maybe we would start to realize we have more in common than divides us, right? And so we kept trying to figure out what could we do? What could we do? Of course, the world of social media and this kind of thing. And then it occurred to me, and Crystal brings this up too, is when we were younger, I had a tape recorder, one of those old school. I know many of you listening are probably like, a tape recorder, what is that? So back in the day, there were tapes, little cassettes, and I would pop this in and I would go around pretending to interview people. And so out of that birthed this idea of what if we hosted a podcast? And not with the intention of amplifying or making much of our voices or our names, but rather allowing it to be a platform and a space where we would bring other people and people that we valued, people we admired, people, like you said, we really looked for issues and conversations and taboo topics that were almost polarizing to an effect. And we wanted to be able to have those people at the table and really empathetically listen and allow that in a way. So now we have that conversation and now we want to magnify it and amplify it to the world in hopes of starting other conversations to bring people in to realize that, hey, wait a minute, maybe instead of just shouting out through comments and posts, maybe there is something to stopping and listening, not only the podcast, but maybe other people around me as well.
Wow. Can you give us maybe some of the topics that you talk about on your show?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny you say that because we started out talking about election 2016, and not only in regards to the presidency, but we actually started talking about the legalization of marijuana. And I don't want to make a political statement or anything of this nature, but it was really to talk about how in 2016 and even recently in 2020, it was been on the ballot in many states. And at first people were like, okay, why are you bringing this up? But again, it was one of these issues that you were either for it or you were either against it. And there was no way of bridging that gap. And so that was our first episode. And Crystal always tells me, if people can get through that first episode, there's some beautiful conversations coming, because we also talk to artists and rappers and religious leaders, political leaders. So we center around conversations about how to get engaged in our community. We actually have one coming up with Eric Oldine in next week. And we recently also spoke to someone, an entrepreneur, teacher turned entrepreneur, Andrea Johnson, who was sharing a story about some copyright infringement issues. And so we really kind of spread the broad spectrum of, again, these people, these conversation starters that we value and that we believe will then, once we throw them out into the ether, once we get them out there into people, that they may spur this empathetic conversation of, oh wow, what happened to that small business, that minority-owned business? What is this politician who wasn't elected but still has so much to say? And even religious leaders, we've shed light on Judaism. We talked to a local rabbi, and of course, local creatives. We're a part of a poetry community that's going to have an all virtual event at the end of the month. And we just want to make space for the arts in our podcast too, as crazy as that might sound on audio, but so that people are constantly remembering that, like you said, I never thought I would be here talking about being a hero, just like I'm sure there's many people wondering, can I be creative? Can I be a hero of creativity? Or can I even help bridging gaps? But the reality is you can, and we want to help start that conversation potentially with our next guest.
Woo, okay. I'm going to drop the mic for you, but mine is a pen. That was amazing. Oh my gosh. You know, one thing that comes to mind is, okay, so you mentioned names of people who are influential in our community, and they may not have won the election, or they may not be, you know, in the billboards music. Didn't you just launch a podcast with one of our most notable musicians, Quentin?
Yes, Crystal and I were blessed with the opportunity to talk to Quentin Arispe. Quentin has a new album out now. You can actually check it out on our social media feeds. The link are there. And Quentin is just an incredible, diverse, creative, extremely talented artist. And let me tell you, remember the name, because I think the nation and the world is getting ready to just be jamming out and putting Quentin in their queue. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. It's it's the most played episode of our 2021 season so far. We've gotten a lot of great feedback and comments about it. And of course, with the upcoming album, it's a great companion to be able to listen to what Quentin has to say and then go press play on it.
Oh my gosh. So side note, I've known Quentin from when he was like a kid, not a kid, but like, so my husband was a teacher at collegiate high school, and that's where he went to high school. So I've seen Quentin like transform, you know, and it's like right before my eyes. Literally, I feel like this has happened before my eyes because he was at Harbor Playhouse. Like, I just feel like I have just seen this person just
blossom, right?
Every time I'm on his Instagram, I'm like, oh my gosh.
What kind of music does Quentin do?
What doesn't he do? I think it's the better question there, Megan.
He's my music. I think it's like everything. It's like the taste. I feel like he's like a taste of every piece of music you like.
Wow.
Like rap, like soulful music, spiritual music, like it's just soul, right? Soul music. I don't know what he does.
I'll have to check it out.
You go listen to his back catalog. He's got everything from sounding like pop to some soft rock. And of course, his new album is it's like jazz meets funk meets the queer music industry right now. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Nice.
And he just has this presence, right? So I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, he lives in Corpus Christi. And then he was on your podcast, and I was like, oh my gosh. So it's just amazing. Super, super amazing. So for those of you all watching right now, here is the screen for you to know more about the Revolve One podcast. As you were hearing today, he is just one of a duo. So Rudy Garcia has the privilege of serving up this Revolve One podcast with his sister, Crystal Garcia, who, by the way, I serve with on the board of the Mosaic Project of South Texas. Go Pride, CC. We're super excited that we have you here, Rudy. But one of the things that I wanted to continue just kind of talking through, because we just recently told everybody that they should apply to be a TEDx speaker. And so I'm going to point up, right? So this person over here has given a talk already, right? And then this person over here, I'm like, Megan, would you please give a talk?
What person?
right now, right up there. And so I want to show, this is an image of you speaking on the stage. People call it the red dot. You're standing right on the red dot. You gave a presentation at TEDx. How did it feel to give a TED talk and have so many views on our TED website? Not my TED website, actually the TED.com website.
Wow.
Well, it's extremely humbling. And in fact, it's still very surreal to me that this is out there and that I've done that. I'm very privileged. You, along with some few other people in town, encouraged me. At first, I really wasn't having any intention to share. And then some spurring from some key individuals in my life, including yourself, Lisa, were like, hey, I think you have something to say. And the more I thought about it, I did. And honestly, I just shared my story. And part of my story, in conjunction with the podcast, as many people do, I suffered and still do with social anxiety and depression. And I had a really good talk with a friend of mine that told me that meditation and mindfulness helped him. And so I kind of was like, what's that about? I thought that was for hipsters and people on the fringe, right? Not for me, maybe a monk, but not me. And then the more I dug into it, the more I began to actually even practice it, take small steps of the minutes of my day, and just take that time to put the phone away, sit down and just kind of center myself and become mindful and meditate. I really began to realize that I was actually creating space in my life to engage more intimately with the people closest to me. And that's what the TED Talk was about. And so it was my story of realizing that the word I used and the word that John Kabat-Zinn uses, that mindfulness expert and author, anything by him, read and listen to, was mindlessness. I felt like I was living mindlessly. I was letting myself be consumed with depression and anxiety. And really, when people ask me, well, how did mindfulness or meditation help you with depression? It didn't necessarily become a happy pill or anything like that. It really was just this moment of I was able to step back and out of it. It didn't change anything, to be quite honest with you. It changed my perspective on it. And that's what I was able to share on that TED Talk. And the link is in our Revolve One social media pages. You could go back and revisit the talk. And I feel honored to be able to have shared that. And truly, I'm still a student of practicing to be more and more aware and mindful each day so that I don't get sucked into mindlessness. So very grateful for that opportunity.
I love it. Oh my goodness.
It was good.
Yeah. And Megan, before we jump into the next question, I have a surprise for everyone. So I'm just going to play a little short snippet of what Rudy had to say after he gave his TED Talk. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Rudy Garcia. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time and joining me here at RevolveOne.com. What an amazing event TEDx Cool Park was. Huge thank you to everybody who helped put all of that together. It's absolutely a privilege and honor for me to be able to share that stage with so many incredible people. So hopefully you're here because you're ready to take the next step in your journey towards being more mindful. First off, like I said before in my TEDx talk, I am no guru by any means, but I can speak to the experience and the testimony that I have over the last few years of my life of taking steps away from mindlessness towards mindfulness. So that's what this is going to be. I'm going to tell you one or two things that I did early on that helped me be more mindful. I'm going to give you some suggestions about maybe some apps, expound a little bit on the app that I use, and then ultimately point you to Revolve One's Instagram and Facebook, where I will be doing regular over the next 4 to 6 weeks on Mondays. I will be dropping Mindfulness Mondays posts via video or a written post to give people a little bit more guidance in taking the next steps towards being mindful.
Woohoo! Okay, so I actually cut the video short. So if you're intrigued, you need to go and visit the website, which is Revolve One, right? Is that what it is?
That's correct. Yes.
Revolve1.com. So I just put the link on there, Revolve1.com. Go there. You can watch the rest of this video. He talks about sharing apps. Yes, who doesn't need an app? I always feel like an app is sort of like that superpower that could help you, right? Yeah. So an app is that thing that reminds you of things. It tracks things for you. So if there's an app out there that can help you be more mindful, and Rudy's talking about it, so let's find out what that app is. So go to his website and learn more about that video. But let's continue with the show and learn more about Rudy.
Yes, Rudy, the next biggest question we're about to ask you, and it's the most important question of your life. Okay?
Not another one.
Megan.
You are affectionately being called a PowerUp hero today. What does being a PowerUp hero really mean to you?
Well, I'll tell you, and Lisa and I talked about this beforehand. I'm not the kind of person that thinks of themselves as a hero. So very honored and gracious, because when I think of a hero, I think of people like Martin Luther King Jr. I think of people that are relentless, people that are empathetic, people that are altruistic and leadership oriented, those game changers, right? And so I'm honored to be in that circle. I mean, even people like Greta Thunberg and Stacey Abrams, these people that at the end of the day, the world is being influenced by their words and by their actions. So for me to be in this realm of heroes is humbling. But I will tell you, as we talked about before, and even thinking about what my superpower might be, don't want to give any previews, but I'm honored to be able to bring and get the gap between maybe this person and that person, or this topic and that topic. And so for me, it's being able to use the platform that Crystal and I have created to be able to do that, to bridge bridges, to cross those bridges. But as I was thinking about this too, I kept thinking about my 5-year-old, because when I think of Sophia, I didn't realize this, and if those of you have kids, you know this. For those of you that don't, I'm about to give you a little sneak peek. Sophia at 5 years old is saying everything I'm saying and doing everything I'm doing. And I will tell you what, there is nothing more revealing than a 5-year-old repeating everything you say and acting the way you act. And so for me, it's realizing that I need to be that example. And for me, a PowerUp hero is making sure that my example that I said, not only for my 5-year-old, but for those listening to Revolve One, for those watching our social media feeds, for those watching me in the grocery store, is making sure that I am acting in such a way that is whole, aware, kind, compassionate, loving, and much like those heroes I mentioned, living up to that standard for my family and for the world around me.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I literally just had chills thinking about maybe something that you didn't want your daughter to say or do. And here she is showing you a mirror of the truth. By the way, I just noticed right now that you have a Superman cup. Is that what that was? Oh, I was mistaken.
Got the T right here, quite literally.
Hold on, let's zoom in on it. I want to see. Oh my gosh, how awesome is that? I love it. So you know what? You are being a hero in real life. You're really reflecting it. You're drinking You're drinking from the heroic mug.
Absolutely, get that tea.
Yeah, because I think one of the things. Okay, so when I think about Superman, I think about he can fly, and there's just everyone thinks of Superman first when they think of a hero. So it's just telling that you have a Superman cup. So that's awesome. So we're calling you. Megan asked you about we're calling you a PowerUp hero, and you mentioned what a hero is, but we're specifically calling you the PowerUp hero of community, okay? Mm-hmm. And we know what that means and why we're making you the PowerUp hero of community, but what does being a hero of community mean to you?
Yeah, for sure. No, that is such a good question. And even when I think about the word community, it's this combination of two words, right? So for me, it's common and unity. And when Crystal and I produce and make much of Revolve One, we're constantly thinking about how can we add value to those people in community, and how in that process of adding value can we show people not what divides us, but what we have in common, so that we can see those things that are in common and realize that we are more united, and there are things that unite us more than divide us. So this idea of common unity, and with each episode that Revolve One puts out, with each episode we have on the storyboard in the other room, we're constantly thinking not only what this leader can bring, but who this leader can help us reach. And what topic can we then, is there a gap in between, like the legalization of marijuana? We didn't take a political stance on it. We just wanted to throw it out there so that people could walk to the other side, maybe not stay there, maybe not even be convinced one way or another, still walk away with their opinions and thoughts, but realize that there's another side to it. And instead of demonizing the other side, Why don't we listen? And so for me, community, you can't have common and unity. You can't have that without listening. And of course, I have a podcast, so I encourage people to listen often. But the reality is that Crystal and I, as interviewers, we wouldn't be doing it just by just making much of our own voices or our own opinions, but rather listening. And that's what we really champion around Revolve One, is this idea that whoever we book next, as much as the questions matter for us, and of course, y'all are doing a fantastic job. I'm honored to be here. But it's really about making a space that's comfortable for those people so that we can wholeheartedly listen to them and then provide that for a world that is, quite frankly, more interested in likes and comments rather than listening. And you and me know that we cannot love the world and love people without first listening to them. And so for me, that's what ultimately, if I think of being a hero of community, let's make the space to listen. And within that space, I think you'll start to find that there's much that really brings us together and that we can love about our world.
And just like literally right on cue, we got a bunch of hearts. Like literally, like you don't even know. Like we got a bunch of hearts on your page. So for those of y'all watching, please put a bunch of hearts, because I really feel like, oh my gosh, you just literally schooled us on the word community. Common unity. I mean, you just broke it down. Are you ready to give another TED Talk? Because I think that was it right there. Oh my goodness, you really did that. And I have to bring in Peggy, who says that was good. Yes, I'm saying it. I don't know whether that's how you meant it to be said, Peggy, but I'm saying it like that was really good. That was really good. And then I know you are actually, while you were talking, Zoraida had actually asked a question before, and she asked, what story has impacted you the most? And, you know, you were talking about community. You were talking about how, you know, your job on this earth, right? You feel like you're brought onto this earth to be able to create voice for people, right? To create community. So let's answer Soraida's question, which is, you know, which story have you possibly unpacked that has impacted you the most?
That is like asking a parent who's your favorite child, right? I think that at the end of the day, there are so many reasons for me to love each and every single episode. So I have kind of a twofold answer to that, Zoraida. One is the next one, right? There's always the one that's to come, the one that I haven't heard yet, because I constantly am thinking and asking Crystal. Part of our brain our think tank, if you will, is what haven't we highlighted? What struggle, what injustice, what person, what leader, what creative can we bring on that would then allow us to help bridge gaps and those kinds of things? But then secondly, to give you one that you can go back and listen to is we had a series, and we still bring it back up every now and then, but we had a series called If I'm Honest With You. And then we would finish the phrase. So that the title of the series was If I'm Honest With You. And then we would fill it in with, if I'm honest with you, I have an eating struggle. If I'm honest with you, parenting is hard. But one of those that stuck with me is I talked to a recovering drug addict. And it was heart-wrenching to hear. And this was pre-COVID. So at the time, I have a kind of a homemade studio here. So this gentleman was willing to come and sit face-to-face with me. And when I tell you that my hero or my superpower is empathy, it just doesn't mean to feel sad for someone, right? Let me just unpack empathy for a minute. Sympathy, right? When you hear that somebody's lost a job or lost a loved one, is you feel sad for them. Right. But empathy is you're sitting with that person's sadness. You're sitting with that person's struggle. And for me, having this conversation, if I'm honest with you, I was addicted to drugs, having this one-on-one conversation and really walking away with that. Now, granted, he's on the other side of it. There's goodness and glory and he's clean. But to hear of the heartbreak that not only ran through his life, but those that he was closest to, it makes me grateful and thankful that we have a platform where we can highlight stories like that. I had so many people DM and message the podcast afterwards. I needed to hear that. That's my brother. I sent that to my cousin. I sent that to my uncle. And it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. And to this day, it remains one of the top played episodes on Revolve One.
I have not listened to that episode. I've listened to many, but not that one. So I will seek it out because I haven't even heard the episode, but just your description of it, I'm getting emotional. Just anticipating the message, I guess, right? So I love Soraya put, if I am honest with you. Soraya, what are you about to tell us? I don't know, like continue the conversation for us here. But Soraya also loves your shirt that you were wearing when we shared your video, which was, we are all human. And I feel like that's what you're doing. And you sort of kind of alluded to the fact that your superpower is empathy. And that was going to be one of my questions. So here at the Power Up Hero Show, we're all about sharing stories about how people, humans, just like you right now, sitting, watching, listening, wherever you are a hero. But we're here to share stories about how we are all being heroes in real life. And we've just slightly unpacked our own Rudy Garcia, who's our Power Up Hero of community. And he just revealed to us that his superpower is empathy. So Rudy, I ask you, what does empathy mean to you? Why do you consider the Power Up Hero of community? Why does the superpower need to be empathy?
Yeah, no, and that's a really great question. And I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself, but sometimes we need to be reminded more than instructed, right? So I will tell you, for me, it goes back to my 5-year-old. And it goes back to Sophia, because I've realized, and my wife and I, so grateful to have Catherine alongside me in parenting and raising her, because every single day we're trying to teach her to be loving and kind and to be empathetic. And so this idea of empathy, again, it's not just feeling sad when someone is sad or feeling happy when someone is sad. Don't get me wrong, life calls for those things. You got to do that. But I think ultimately, when I look at the relationships that I value the most in my life, it's those relationships that I've exercised a deep amount of empathy towards those individuals, whether it be my partner, my wife, whether it be my daughter, my sister, my mom, my dad, mentors. It's those people that I've been able to either dive into their life because they've invited me into their issues or their struggle, or intimate conversations about their dreams, or it's those people that we have the opportunity to interview and to highlight, and they let you in for that moment in that conversation. And so again, for me, it's realizing that true connectedness and true compassion and true love cannot be experienced without that willingness to listen and then sit with that feeling, sit with that person. And that's one thing that is hard to do, to be quite honest with you. It's nothing that is celebrated in our society today, and nothing to take away from social media. But the reality is I feel like over the last 10 years, our society has moved towards this idea of more social media going up. And then therefore, a lot of the intimacy and relationships that we used to have has become more and more shallow. The depth of relationships and listening and conversations. And it's even more difficult when we're social distancing. I mean, in the middle of this pandemic, it's that much more difficult. But if we remember and recall that it is those moments where we listen, where we empathize and connect with what the other person is feeling, what our loved one is feeling, or maybe even what our neighbor is feeling, that is when true connectedness happens. And that's when that inner web of loving kindness that is humanity is magnified. And ultimately, that's what's going to get us through this pandemic. Vaccine or no vaccine, that's what's going to get us to the other side of this, is at the end of the day, we still got to love our neighbor. And empathy allows us to do that in a way that builds those bridges and builds better humans, ultimately.
I'm speechless.
I feel like the weight has been lifted for some reason. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Rudy for balls, Rudy for president.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
You know, I'm like literally sitting. I'm sitting, standing. I'm standing. Okay, here I am saying I'm sitting. But I mean, I even stopped writing notes because I was feeling it so much. And you said that empathy is possibly a combination of you listen and you sit with. right? So you don't try to act or react, you just sit with, right?
Absolutely.
I like how you said that. And I just want to give a bit of a shout out to Peggy, who said that was good. That's right. And then again, I think you were talking about the difference. I can't remember what the difference between the two was, but you talked about it. Yeah. And she said that, but I just want to thank everybody for putting comments in there. So if you have any questions for Rudy, please put them in there so we can answer your questions. But Rudy, that was very impactful. I don't think that the Webster's dictionary or the Merriam, whatever it is, or whatever dictionaries that y'all use, Google, could have had a better definition for what empathy is. I think what we read in dictionaries is sterile and doesn't have that emotion. And the word empathy gets thrown around a bit now, right?
Absolutely.
And you humanized it for us. So you are truly our superpower. You're truly our power up hero of community, because we do want to live in a community where we feel like we belong, where it's okay to be who we are while we're suffering, while we're celebrating, whatever it is that we're showing up as. We should be okay with that and know that the world is going to be okay with us being ourselves. So thank you for that message.
And honestly, I think it's a really good segue to our next question. You had mentioned that empathy is so downplayed. Nobody really celebrates having empathy. It's not really something that's exactly taught when you're young. And so knowing that, what do you feel some of your obstacles or adversities in life have been being a power-up hero?
Yeah, no, that's good. How much time do we have, right?
1 second. That is such a good question. And so I kind of feel like I need like a mini break. So I am actually going to play just a really short video. And then Rudy, I want you to think about that, right? So what was your question again, Megan? What obstacles?
Yes.
What obstacles has he faced? Okay, we will be back in just a few seconds.
What do Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, and Frodo all have in common with the heroes of ancient myths? What if I told you they are all variants of the same hero? Do you believe that? Joseph Campbell did. He studied myths from all over the world and published a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, retelling dozens of stories and explaining how each represents the monomyth or hero's journey. So, what is the hero's journey? Think of it as a cycle. The journey begins and ends in the hero's ordinary world, but the quest passes through an unfamiliar, special world. Along the way, there are some key events. Think about your favorite book or movie. Does it follow this pattern? Status quo, that's where we start. 1 o'clock, call to adventure. The hero receives a mysterious message, an invitation, a challenge. 2 o'clock, assistance. The hero needs some help, probably from someone older, wiser. 3 o'clock, departure. The hero crosses the threshold from his normal, safe home and enters the special world and adventure. We're not in Kansas anymore. 4 o'clock, trials. Being a hero is hard work. Our hero solves a riddle, slays a monster, escapes from a trap. 5 o'clock, approach. It's time to face the biggest ordeal, the hero's worst fear.
Oh my goodness. So as you can see, our hero was facing an ordeal, and Megan, you asked a really amazing question. So I'm going to bring back our guest today. If you're just joining us, we are joined by Rudy Garcia, who we have just celebrated as a power-up hero of community, and his superpower is empathy. Now, we want to find out, Megan, do you want to key this up for us?
Yeah, Rudy had mentioned some really great points a second ago about how empathy is something that is not exactly celebrated, and sometimes it can be kind of downplayed, and not a lot of people recognize it. And then he put it into terms of how much it takes to be empathetic, and it's a lot more than you think. It's not as simple as sympathy, right? It's not the same thing. So I started thinking to myself, what are some of the obstacles or adversity he's faced as our power-up hero of empathy?
And so the question for Rudy, who we're just bringing back on right now, is Rudy, we want you to tell us, maybe, I think the question here, Megan, is what obstacles has he faced? What challenges, what monsters have come and tried to eat you, and what is not helping you become a hero in real life?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, and get ready to clear the next 2 hours of y'all's day. I'm just kidding. No, but in reality, it's for me, it's like when I think of that, it was the struggle that I mentioned earlier, and it was one of the reasons why we brought Revolve One to the forefront, and that is. And Crystal and I have been really transparent about this throughout our Revolve One back catalog, is our family comes from a family that struggles with mental health issues. And originally, in even trying to get Revolve One off the ground, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety weighed heavy on me. And I'm sure there are many listening right now that can relate to that. It's a very common thing, especially as we've been talking about being socially distanced in the middle of the pandemic. The world is not what we recognize it as. And so that was something that weighed so heavy on me and my family that it even cost many of my family's life. Many of them, unfortunately, committed suicide. And so that always weighed heavy on me. And again, even in just the day-to-day life, even in just the early stages of piecing together the podcast, there was this voice in my head that would always be like, you know, who's going to want to play this podcast? Who's going to want to be interviewed with you? And I'm sure many people can relate that whatever we want to champion, whatever dreams and goals we have, there's always going to be that struggle, whether it be an internal voice or whether it be literal obstacles to creating and establishing your business or your goals, be it fitness or otherwise. There's always going to be some type of challenge, even as that video just articulated. But for me, it was kind of funny because the same voice that I was hearing internally that was dogging me down, ultimately mindfulness and a lot of key people, and I mean key people, not just family members and friends, but key people that were willing to deposit into me wisdom and value, and they were willing to be transparent with me, and they were willing to encourage me. And let me tell you, it's people like you, Lisa, people like you, Megan, that were willing to say, hey, you're a hero. You got what it takes. And quickly, not only did mindfulness allow me the ability to step back and kind of almost just watch the depression or anxiety. I know that kind of sounds odd, but it was still there. But I was able to step back from it, not be in it, and let it overtake every moment of my life. And then I was able to listen to those key leaders, family members and friends and mentors that were willing to empower me, which is what I believe this show does. And that was able to help me just take the next step. I didn't get it all at once, let me tell you, but it was able to help me put the next step together to get Revolve One off the ground, or to make that next phone call or email to that person, including you, Lisa. I remember Crystal and I, when we reached out, you know, you've been on the podcast, and we reached out, I kept thinking to myself, there's no way that Lisa's going to respond. I mean, you're this incredible leader, the world renowned. And I'm like, we're just this little podcast. We hadn't even been around for a year or so. And you said yes. And we took that chance. And that was yet another token in our back to go, look at this. Look what we can do when, instead of listening to that voice that's dogging us down, we listen to the right people. We make that awareness of, I think we have what it takes right here, right now. If you're waiting for it to come, it's never really going to come, right?
Really?
You use the tools you have now to take that first step. And that's what we did, I hope.
Oh my gosh, my mind is blown. I had no idea. I was looking at you guys like, oh my gosh, look who contacted me. And I was like, they want me on their show. And I was like, I need to go and get interviewed, you know? So do you see how maybe sometimes what we are seeing or what we're feeling isn't the reality, right?
Absolutely.
like we know so much and we're in our own heads and we're not realizing that. Just get out of it, just step out, be bold, and just live your authentic life. And if you want to talk to that person, ask them. They may be waiting for you to talk to them. I was waiting for somebody to ask me. And when I researched you guys, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get on the show. Oh my God.
Well, you bring up a good point, and it's one of the pillars, if I could piggyback off of that. Real quick, I will say that one of the pillars of my mindfulness practice is this idea of impermanence. And for those of you who are like, what's impermanence? Well, it's this idea that everything's constantly changing. And for me, that nothing stays the same. For me, that was realizing that, and this might sound morbid, but my mortality, realizing that I'm not going to live forever. And listen, heaven knows that if I'm gone today in an accident or a heart attack, I want to be able to say right here, right now, that I didn't leave anything on the table, that I was able to love, I was able to be compassionate, I was able to empathize, that I was able to put it all out there. And that's what I think ultimately those family members that unfortunately made those decisions because of overwhelming mental health issues, we think about, Crystal and I talk about and think about all the time, and realizing that we don't want to let ourselves be clouded and overwhelmed with those thoughts to the point of we are not doing all that we can to make sure that we're living life to the fullest. And for us, that may just mean reaching out to someone like you, reaching out to that next person so that we can help amplify and magnify their voice. And that to us is the goal. And remembering that we don't have, every day is a gift, and it truly is. And so that's what you just reminded me of.
The present. And Peggy tells us that stepping out of your comfort zone. Yes, we definitely need to do that. And the big difference that she was talking about was empathy versus sympathy, right? So I think sometimes you can be sympathetic but not be empathetic, but then think you're being empathetic because you're sympathetic. So there's a big difference. Just like, for example, here I am bringing TEDx back into all of this. There's a difference between equity and equality, right? I think a lot of times that those two get thrown around quite a bit. Equity is fairness, just like you would imagine equality is, but it's not really the same thing, right? Equity is making sure that everybody is able to capitalize on the opportunity and utilize the resources available to be at their full potential, right? So if somebody needs more help than someone else, you give it, right? That is equity. I do still want to also bring in, did you see the comment from Zoraida?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think we should talk about it.
I think so too. Do you want to unpack it for us?
Yeah. So she was talking about how she feels very strongly about being kind of empathic, and she struggled with a lot of the same things that you were talking about, Rudy, depression, suicide, anxiety. And she wants to know what 3 things you would suggest to help so that we don't get drained and fall back into those kinds of dark places. And I think she brings up a really good point when she says during a time when connection has really changed, we're not able to interact the way we used to. And I think a lot of people are now starting to recognize that it matters. Before we thought it didn't matter. We can Skype. It's not a big deal. We can Zoom. It's not a big deal. I don't need to see you in person. But now that we don't have that option anymore, I think people are really starting to feel it. So do you have maybe 3 suggestions to help so that we don't get back into those dark places?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, Zoraida. And again, I would tell you that I still feel like a student of life myself, but I can say that first off, I would tell you that, and I was thinking about my cup as you were talking, because so many of us that exercise empathy are so willing to pour ourselves out into that situation, into that other person. But the reality is that if there's nothing in your cup, then you can't pour anything out.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's realizing that I have to practice meditation. And I use meditation and the word mindfulness interchangeably. And what that means for me is I pause. I intentionally make time. Sometimes it's one time a day. Sometimes it's multiple times a day where I'm off my phone. I get centered on myself. And that allows me the ability to recharge. That allows me the ability to center myself and ground myself so that the next interaction, whether it be with my daughter or a listener, that because the world is a dark place, then we're ready to go in there and take that. So one, I would find out what that is for you. Find out what can center you, can bring you back home, if you will.
Yep.
Because again, we're not Superman. You know, we bring up Superman, incredible figure, but the reality is he is a fictional character. So we have to remember and recall, as much as we can use those heroes to live up to examples of, we have to remember that we are human. And it is that humanness that should recall that we have to find those moments to self-care, to self-love. In fact, I think today is self-love day. And we really should find those things that recharge us, so that, not so we can just remain selfish, but so that we can get better at being selfless. But you can't do that from an empty cup. So that's not three things, but I would say start there. And I, again, Crystal, she's not here right now, but I bring her up because find that relationship in your life, whether it be a partner, a wife, a spouse, a best friend, a sibling, to where when somebody comes to you and you're in their life struggle, that you don't have to share names or anything, but you can come together with someone like a mentor or a leader that can walk you through that can empathize with you in a way that now you are recharged. You're not the only one carrying that burden. And again, that harkens back to community. We can't solve this problem individually, right? We're going to have to do it as a village. It takes a village. It really does. And so that's not three things, but again, I would say find that thing that you can recharge and center yourself and take that moment and time to find self-care, and then find that person or group of people. And you guys come together after a long day or after an incredibly rough situation, and you guys recharge each other, because that's the only way we're going to make it through this, is together.
Whew. I'm about to drop my pencil again for you. I feel like every time you talk, we just need to sit with it.
Yep.
Have you ever thought about writing a book?
I have. I'm a terrible writer. I will tell you, Crystal is the more prolific writer out of the two of us, but that has crossed my mind. I look forward to hopefully one day doing that.
And, sometimes books don't have to be books that people like to read, right? So you like talking. And I like Audible. So it could be an audiobook, right? You don't have to even do the book route first, right? So you could first hack it and just say, you know what? Forget the writing part. I'm just going to talk a book, right? So it could be literally a book that's just straight podcast, right? Like a straight book, like an episode, like something to listen to. I think I would listen to you. I would enjoy listening to you.
I appreciate that.
I think we could do that. And actually, it's time for our fantastic Fast 5 Thing of Favorites time. Boom, boom, boom. I need some music for this, y'all. I'm about to get on Fiverr, and somebody on Fiverr is going to make me some Jeopardy intros thing for this part of our show. But for those of you who may not know, this part of our show is all about celebrating our Power Up hero. We want to know the favorites of our Power Up heroes. But as you're listening today, we also want to hear what your favorites are. So we're going to bring Rudy Garcia back, and we're going to ask him, Rudy, for the Fast 5 Finger Favorites time, tell us, what is your favorite book?
Oh, okay. So, gosh, anything by Jon Kabat-Zinn. Mindfulness is Not What You Think. Big one, great book. Anything by him, incredible.
Okay, repeat that last name. Jon?
So Jon Kabat-Zinn. So two different names, Kabat and Zinn.
Okay, got it. And he writes about mindfulness, so we'll be able to find him that way.
Absolutely.
The next question is, and for those of you watching, what is your favorite book? Anybody put what their favorite book is? Nobody has yet. So let's move on to the next one. What is your favorite movie or something to watch?
Okay, so I am a huge Christopher Nolan fan, and I love Interstellar. And it's such a good movie. And for me, the big takeaway, if you're like, what, Interstellar, Christopher Nolan, is that love can travel through anything. Love transcends time. Love transcends gravity. If you go back and rewatch the movie with that in mind, you'll be surprised how much that was the whole point that Christopher Nolan was trying to make.
I haven't even seen it, so I don't know about
it's been a long time.
Cue it up.
Megan?
I've seen it, but it's been a while because it's kind of older, right?
Yeah, you got to revisit it. I think it's from 2012, 2013. It's so good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if I've seen it, I don't even remember it. So I will go look it up. So anything that Rudy is pitching right now, I'm about to do. So John Kabat-Zinn, and now we're into Interstellar. Let's see, somebody else has maybe put something. She put good movie. Soraya says good movie. So the next part of our questions is for the fast 5 finger favorites. What is your favorite song or something to listen to?
Okay, well, you mentioned Quentin earlier. I'm going to bring it full circle to Quentin. I cannot stop playing the song In Between by Quentin off of his new album, The Spiritual Waiting Room. I mean, I haven't gotten tired of. You know how you get tired of song? You're like, okay, I'll be queuing. As soon as we're done here, guess what song I'm gonna be playing? In Between by Quentin. It's a great song.
By Quentin. Okay, so but I know because I follow Quentin like I am his super fan. He is on Spotify as of yesterday, I think, is when his album launched. Yeah, yesterday, boom, the album dropped. So you can go on Spotify and find Quentin Arispe, right? And download his entire album and specifically listen to In Between. So if you only listen to one song, why do you do that? Okay,
I'll be jazzed. How I be jamming. You know, you ain't ready for that.
Okay, so
y'all are really playing this up. I can't wait to go listen. So
yeah. So Soraya says, "Girl on fire." I love it. Okay, so now next is gonna be the question about our. Rudy Garcia, what is your favorite quote or phrase?
Oh my gosh, there's so many of them, right? I have no idea how to answer that question, but anything, of course, I mentioned Martin Luther King Jr. Anytime I dive into and somebody asks me what inspires me, whose quotes, I'm constantly coming back to anything by MLK. Is an incredible figure, leader. And I mean, the entire I Have a Dream speech, I had the opportunity to redo that live at one point at TAMUK. And I had so much fun doing that. And I just admire him.
I said, that is so cool. That is so fun. I remember when we did the march. Remember when we did the march and somebody reenacted the speech? I thought that was so cool. So you got a chance to do that?
It was an honor. It truly was an honor. Yes, I'd done it in a speech class, and then they were having an event a week later, and the professor requested that I be integrated into the program, and I was able to do it. So it was fun.
Oh my gosh. So watch me try to put you on the spot and be like, give us a taste, but I won't in case you feel like it. I don't know.
I'd have to I don't have it handy. That was years ago.
That's totally okay. I just totally did a bad thing on an interview to throw the person you're interviewing a curveball. So I apologize for that. But wow, that's amazing. So we are celebrating Black History Month. So I would say that I would love it if maybe you did a recording and put it on your website so that we can be able to see you reenacting that speech, because I think it would be impactful. I really do. Thank you so much. So anything by MLK Jr.
Absolutely, yes.
Next on our fast 5 finger favorites is, how do you wake up in the morning? So today we are celebrating our PowerUp hero of community, whose superpower is empathy, Rudy Garcia. If you had the perfect day, everything went as you wished, how would you wake up in the morning? What would be your morning routine?
Wow. Well, I would love that day. Sign me up for that day, please. So for me, and of course, this doesn't happen often, but for me, it would be getting up at least 30 minutes to an hour before anybody else in the house so that I can, the early mornings are the best because they're so quiet. There's not a whole lot of traffic, quite literally and figuratively. And I have that mindfulness time. I'd be able to start my day centering and grounding myself and spending time becoming aware, getting ready for the day, resting in gratitude, too, for the fact that I'm alive today and I have this present moment. And then, of course, I'd make some coffee. Life does not happen for me without a really good cup of coffee. And then from there, coffee, a good book, right? This does not always happen, by the way. This is my perfect day, right? So a good book, it would be either reaching or reading up on mindfulness or a good leadership book. I've recently been going into like leadership books and ways, Start With Why by Simon Sinek, I think, too. So finding books that I can help start my day with, so that I'm not on social media yet, right, on that, and just kind of get my brain stirred. And then diving into, now I do the podcast, but I also have a 9-to-5 job. So I work in sales, but the podcast takes up the majority of my time, 5 to 9, if you will, post that. And that's always thinking through who's the next person, so spending that day. And of course, my family, right? Putting up and loving on my family. Of course, my favorite day is Saturday. So having that time with my daughter, hanging out with her, spending that time with her, spending that time with my wife. And really, those are the quality time. When I'm not working, like if you're asking me my perfect day at work is making sure I'm getting stuff done, storyboarded, scripts written, reaching out to emails and phone calls. A non-work day, it's making sure that everything centers around my family and my friends. And of course, it's difficult to do nowadays with those people that you're not in physical community with, but that would be my perfect day, right? Have that nice centered mindfulness time, that nice big cup of coffee, that time to then get the brain stirring in whatever I'm reading, and then allow myself the readiness to engage in work and a productive day, or engage with my family in a beautiful quality time kind of way.
I love it.
Yes, I love it too, because it's a good segue into our next question. You took me in the day in the life of Rudy Garcia right now. Revolve One, family, meditating, thinking, getting ready, all this prep to go out into the world and face the day. But imagine yourself 5 to 10 years from now, from all of that you just described. Imagine yourself 5 to 10 years from that. What do you see and how do you see it?
I thought about this question. I saw this earlier, and it's so funny because it's counterintuitive for me as someone who's mindfulness driven to think so far in the future. But I do have dreams, I do have goals, and I constantly am trying to bring myself back to this day and moment. But I will say, when I think about that, it's really doing much of the same that I'm doing now, but on a grander scale. So for us, that would mean I would love, Revolve One. We've really tried to do our best to make it a passive income and selling ads and working with partners and stuff. So our goal ultimately is to make it a side hustle where there's income being driven with ads, and be it products like a book or t-shirts or merchandise or this type of thing. So that would be a goal of ours, right? Is ultimately to get to a place and to a point where the podcast has reached enough listenership and downloads, and our influence has grown to not only just the coastal bend, but maybe the state, maybe the nation, perhaps even the world. We have listeners that listen in Europe and Australia and South America. It's just a handful here and there, but the reality is that our message is growing out there. And so hopefully in 5 to 10 years, between now and then, that can just continue to grow. And our ideas of not only engaging in a way to make profit too, but to also engage people, and to make much of the people that not only we interview, but in ways in which Crystal and I want to contribute back to not only our local community, but even ultimately overall, in finding a way to leverage the platform for justice. You talked about what the TEDx talk is getting ready to talk about. The reality is much of our conversation between my sister and I is not only about generating income for Revolve One or growing our influence, but leveraging our influence so that we can be people that are being generous with our time and being generous with our platform, so that we can give the voice to the voiceless. Mm-hmm. and incorporating that in a way that if somebody has a story out there, a situation out there that isn't being heard, nobody's doing anything about it, let us know. We would love to potentially feature that. We would love to potentially highlight that. Mm-hmm. and literally hand over the mic so that our impact and the impact of those that are typically voiceless or don't have a voice can now have a voice because of Revolve One.
Can I ask another question? And it's probably super obvious, but I have to just ask because it's not obvious to me. Where does the name Revolve One come from?
Oh, that's a great question. No, it's funny. You say that because so the world behind me, right?
I was picking like the shirt.
So that's the world over here.
Yeah.
So this idea goes back to my conversation earlier with Crystal in starting this whole thing, is we wanted to be able to span the world of topics and ideas. And the world, of course, as you and I know it, it revolves, it rotates. And so for us, the idea of going around the table and around the table of topics, be it with people, perspectives, point of views, that was the goal, right? So this idea of revolve, this round table thing, and then the idea of one, ultimately, we're one people, right? Regardless of how many different point of views or perspectives there may be, at the end of the day, we're on one world, we're one people, even though you could, from here to Korea to England, it's a whole different people, you know. So that's where the idea, this idea that Revolve One, we're going around with different leaders, different people, different perspectives, but ultimately we hearken back to we are one species, one people.
Okay, I can sleep now.
Now you know.
If I didn't ask, I was going to think about it for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
That was a perfect question, Megan, because I think, you know, we all wonder, right? How do you come up with a business name? How do you come up with your podcast name? And, you know, I almost feel like, did you know when you created the podcast name, obviously you created it when you made your first episode, you didn't know that it was going to revolve into what you have now, which is such a huge platform, right? I think, you know, you're providing an opportunity for a lot of people to be heard, but you know, when you talked about your 5 to 10 years from now, I keep thinking to myself, there's people like Oprah Winfrey and there's other people like that who use their platform to empower others to rise up. So what it sounded like you were saying is Oprah needs to call you.
I will definitely pick up the phone for Oprah Winfrey. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm going to be really bold right now and just tell Oprah Winfrey, if you are watching right now, if you are listening, or if anybody who knows Oprah is watching or listening, I'm pretty sure what you heard right now deserves a pretty awesome show on the OWN network. So you need to get in touch with Rudy Garcia and his sister, Crystal Garcia. They are making such a huge impact here in our community, and I'm pretty sure they would make an impact globally with your support. So whoever is watching and listening and knows Oprah, somebody in their network, make sure, or somebody who knows a network organization, make sure you let them know that Rudy Garcia exists, because he is making moves, and we want this to blow up, because I feel like the world needs you, Rudy. The world needs you.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
No, we're not too kind. You are too kind with your time. And so as we are reaching the end of our interview right now, I just want to thank you so much for your time. But Rudy, is there anything that we have not asked you that you would like to share? Because, oh my gosh, I just feel like every question we ask you is like super amazing. So I may not even know what question to ask you. So share whatever else you want to share.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to talk about, anytime I have the opportunity to talk about, I always want to bring about mental health awareness. As I mentioned earlier, my family comes from a background of people struggling heavily with mental health issues. And so I have a little note card here that is basically just talking about the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. So if you need to talk to somebody right now, you can call that number. Or if you want to just text somebody, you can talk to a professional trained counselor. You can text TALK 741-741. And I'll include this in a link on Revolve One social media in our bio, because the reality is that times are very difficult right now, and we cannot get through this alone. We have to get through this together, and there are resources out there like the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline and the Crisis Text Line that I want to make aware any chance I get to talk to somebody, because I'm honored to be considered a hero. But the reality is I have so many family members that are no longer here, and that were heroes to me and heroes to our family, that if they would have had that phone number to call, they would have had that text message to call, that perhaps the world would be even brighter than it is today. So remember, you are loved, you are not alone, and there are always resources to help out there. And I'm honored to have been a part of this. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Rudy, don't leave. Can we just continue talking till the rest of the end of the day? Because this has been such an amazing episode, and you've poured so much into me. I'm sure Megan too. If Megan's my soulmate, then she's feeling how my heart's feeling right now. Because I'm so in love with you right now, Rudy. You have no idea. Like, I feel like the whole world needs to be in touch with you and in touch with the message that you've shared, because our world needs heroes like you. I think, you've shared so authentically, and not only have you shared authentically, you've shared proven paths, I think, of how to maybe overcome and move forward, which is what we're looking for here on the show. We're looking for the opportunity to move beyond that obstacle. And you shared all of that. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. My pleasure and joy.
Yeah. So with that, I think we have come to the end of the show. So Rudy, again, congratulations on being our Power Up Hero of Community with the superpower of empathy. I think you definitely embody that. And we hope that you continue on this journey of, Revolve One. So I guess we can just end by asking you, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can check out our website, revolve1.com, like you mentioned earlier. And we are on Instagram and Twitter at Revolve One. You can follow us there. We're very active on Instagram. In our bio, there is a link that will take you to listening online, as well as articles and other ways to listen, including asking your smart speaker to play Revolve One. And we're also on Facebook. You can look us up, facebook.com/Reach Revolve. It's the only thing that's different. Or you can just search Revolve One Podcast, and there we are. Connect with us, subscribe, follow us, and we would love to hear from you. And who knows, maybe you'll be our next guest. So
I love it. And I love how you have on your website, because the world goes round and so should you. So Rudy, with that, I want to thank you so much for being on our show. And I'm going to give you a high five from over here in my virtual studio. High five to you. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you all so much. You'll have a blessed day.
Bye. Oh, Megan. Oh my gosh.
I know. I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about what we were talking about before, how sometimes you just meet people and it's so easy. Mm-hmm. I think it's attitudes like Rudy's that make you feel that way.
Yes.
That make you feel easy and comfortable in this relationship. I don't have to try. I don't have to worry. I don't have to put up a wall or worry about what I'm going to say. Having that kind of empathy is what makes things so easy, I think.
Mm-hmm. And, and I think what I was feeling when he was talking the whole time was we need more Rudys in this world, because we all go through it, right? So not everybody wakes up in the morning and throws those covers off and is like ready to meet the day, like all excited, right? We got to, sometimes I'm like, I was going to say fake it till we make it, but you got to own it. You got to own it till you hone it, right? I don't know, whatever, right? But the point is, I think we need people like Rudy to be like, Rudy, I don't know what's going on today, and know that he's got us. You know what I mean? Like, he's got you, Yeah. And the more we have that, it almost sounds like those numbers that he shared about the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, the texting line. It sounds like the people on the other side are like him, that they've also got our hearts, right? So we need to, maybe if you're feeling it right now and you need somebody to talk to, you need to make a phone call or you need to send a text, right? Yes. So, okay, I could have that back, those numbers, but I'm pretty sure we'll be able to share those maybe in the comments of the show. I'm so excited that you were here with me, Megan, to feel and experience the Rudy Garcia.
Yes, I definitely felt it.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to be like vibing off of this for the rest of the week. I cannot wait to watch the rest of this episode, and I'm just blessed that you're here with me, Megan. So thank you so much for sharing your Saturday with me and helping me unpack our Rudy Garcia as being our Power Up hero. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you. And thanks to all the Power Up heroes that share every Saturday with us. We love you.
Yes, we love you so much. Thanks, Suraida. Suraida is like our
super Power Up hero.
But you know what? She was our very first Power Up hero, and it was for a very specific reason. And she wasn't even the first person that we interviewed. Before Power Up Hero went live, we would do recordings and then go live, right? So I think when we were launching, I had like 10 episodes, and I was like, you know what? Suraida is it. She is a hero. So I'm just blessed that she continues to follow our work, because she could be anywhere on this world, but she chose to be here with us. So thank you so much, Suraida, if you're still watching. We love you, and the entire James family. We love you all so much. Bye, Megan. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
So there we have it. We just unpacked our Power Up Hero of Community, and the Power Up Hero of Community's superpower was empathy. And as I guess you could say, the founder of this show, I couldn't have been more happy to have Rudy Garcia be here with us to share for us about what a Power Up Hero is all about. So I want to thank you so much for listening and watching the show today. If you want to find out more about our Power Up Hero that we just interviewed today, you can go to our page, poweruphero.org. Once again, it's www.poweruphero.org. If you know a role model in our community, or if you feel like you are a role model in our community, we want to hear your story. You can also visit our website. Again, it's www.poweruphero.org. So you can nominate somebody or nominate yourself, because we really feel like we want to hear stories about how you're being remarkable in this world. And we want you on the show. We want your positive attitude, and we want your commitment to being a hero in real life. I'm Lisa Wisner, and it's always a pleasure to be on this show. But today, I think it was even more of a gift that I received. So I'm just grateful that not only do I get to bring this to you, but I feel like every week I get served up some knowledge and some, I guess you could say, energy to make it through the rest of the week and maybe make it through the rest of my life. So I would say that being on this show and being the host is really, truly in my heart. I'm just so excited that I get the privilege of being here with you all. I want to thank everybody who has really been supporting our show. We have been having so many subscribers on Spotify. We have so many subscribers on Amazon Music. Thank you, especially our Amazon Music fans. I thank you so much. We have so many Alexa plays. I had no idea people would actually be saying, Alexa, play the Power Up Hero podcast, but they are. I thank you so much for that. And I also want to thank LinkedIn so much for broadcasting our show live. Thank you, LinkedIn, for the support. And so anywhere and everywhere that you're able to watch or listen to shows, we are there. And our YouTube fans, I want to thank you so much for also supporting us. Thank you for subscribing to the show and making sure that we're able to continue to bring you stories of how people are being heroic in real life. Thank you again. And I see we have a bunch of comments coming here. So Rudy Garcia actually shared the mental health resource guide here. So as you can see, there is the number. Call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. The Lifeline number is right there for you. I'm going to speak it out for those of you all listening on the show. 1-800-273-TALK, which is 8255. So once again, 1-800-273-8255. Or you can also text TALK to 741-741. To text with a trained counselor from the crisis text line for free 24/7. So no questions asked. Just get on there. And Suraida, we love you just as much as you love us. So I want to thank you all so much for being super fans of this show. And we have another Power Up Hero who just commented. I'm so sorry. Raymond Douglas John, thank you so much. Awesome, Lisa and Megan. Yes, Megan, thank you so much for being here on the show with us. We appreciate you all so much. And with that, I want to say goodbye and make it an amazing rest of your Saturday. Make it a powered up day. Bye.